Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Training Industry Leader Talk, Building Leaders at Every Level, sponsored by Lone Rock Leadership, Tenor, InfoPro Learning, Hemsley Frazier, and CLS. So it's a pleasure to have you guys with here today. I'm Liz Faith, the marketing specialist here at Training Industry, and I'm thrilled to have you with us here. So before we get started, I would like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items to help you interact with our speaker and get the most out of today's program. So if you haven't done so already, let's open up those chat windows and let us know where you're joining us from today. I've seen a lot of Michigan, Virginia, welcome. I am broadcasting live from rainy Raleigh, North Carolina. It is just a pleasure to have you with us here today. So for the session, feel free to use this chat window for comments as well as questions. Russ will be keeping his eye on the chat for any questions throughout, but if we do run out of time, no fear, Russ and his team will be reaching out shortly to address those questions. And once this session ends, a brief survey will appear in your browser. Please take a moment to share your feedback on the session and the speaker. And all of our sessions are being recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com, and you will receive a follow-up email from us that will include a link to on-demand program for you to share with your team. Now, if this is your first event with us, we would love to welcome you. Training Industry exists to make connections among learning and development professionals, and we offer tons of resources to support your role in L&D, like today's Leader Talk, as well as through articles on our website, our magazine, conferences, research reports, membership, and our podcast. We would also love to hear about what you've learned from today's session on social media, so please follow us on your favorite platform so we can continue the conversation. And without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our first speaker today, the co-founder and managing partner at Lone Rock Leadership, Russ Hill. So with that, take it away, Russ.
Well, it is great to be with all of you today. Liz, thank you so much for the introduction. Great to be the first session kicking off what should be a fantastic lineup today. For those of you that have never interacted with our firm, Lone Rock Leadership, what you're seeing on the screen is really what our purpose and our mission is develop leaders who deliver results. We're going to talk about that today in this first session about that from the standpoint of developing leaders at all different levels of the org chart. So I'm assuming that you've got responsibility for that task, and you probably have some needs at the lower level, at frontline supervisors, at the mid-level manager level, as well as at the VP or even at the C-suite level. And so whether you've got all of those needs or just part of those needs, what we're gonna chat about applies to it. So one of the approaches that you're gonna hear me just hit over and over again and have you think about in the course of the next 45 minutes or so is this idea that complexity doesn't scale. And we're really going to apply that from two different standpoints. One, from an L&D or an HR standpoint, are we bringing complexity into the system at all? Could that be part of our challenge or something we need to address or fix? Maybe that's true at your organization. Maybe it's not. It is true in many, and I'll show you some data around that. And then we're going to talk about complexity doesn't scale from the standpoint of mid-level managers and really all levels of the org chart. So often you have mid-level managers or senior executives that are taking complex solutions or ideas or business plans or strategies or results to the organization, and they just struggle to get them to stick. So some of the data points, just to make sure that we're all aligned, and we could look at a lot of different data, right? 82% of HR leaders say that managers aren't equipped to lead effectively. Just think about that for a moment. 82% of HR leaders say, yeah, we got some challenges with our leaders and whether or not they've actually got the skill set, the competencies, the confidence to be able to lead in the way we need them to. 8% of managers think that their company's leadership development programs are effective. Of course, that's not your company, but that's companies in general. That is not a product you would purchase or put in your shopping cart if you were shopping online if it had 8% 5-star or 4-star reviews. And then 77% of organizations say we're having challenges right now with depth. In other words, our bench, leadership succession planning, making sure that we're developing leaders throughout the organization. So those are some of the data points. The question is, how did we get here? And there's really only one place you need to look in order to blame for that reality, and it is the Cheesecake Factory. Those of you that have been to the Cheesecake Factory, in the chat, I need you to share with everyone who hasn't been there, what is this a picture of that is on the screen? Those of you that have been there, what is that? Type it into the chat. Yeah, a novel, right, Noah? It's their menu. Jessica, 5 million choices. That's right. Let's look at just the cheesecake page. So this menu, for those of you that have never been there, by the way, I've only been there a few times, but the food was outstanding. I don't know about for you. So we're just having fun with it. But the menu is like, oh my gosh, it's the exact opposite of where most of you will go to dinner tonight or tomorrow night or celebrate Mother's Day. By the way, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And so you go out to dinner and you normally get just a one pager, right? And it's got the just some options for appetizers and entrees on the front, maybe a drink menu on the back. With Cheesecake Factory, you've got all of these options. And if it's lunchtime or near lunchtime where you are, I'm probably making you hungry as you read read some of the titles. But the challenge here is you get paralyzed with all of the options. If you were to look at this in a drive-through scenario, can you imagine the line at this drive-through? If you had that many options, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. And so out here in the West where I'm at, In-N-Out's really popular. And it's just like, do you want the single hamburger or do you want the double double? Like that's it, right? Not lots of options. And so if we're going to tie all of this to leadership development, us, in a moment, maybe you're already thinking through, well, what does that have to do with us in L&D? Well, a lot of the challenges, if I'm being honest with you, from a vendor standpoint, we're a vendor. We're one of the companies that organizations bring in, partner with in order to help develop leaders. And in the space of vendors, one of the problem is so many of the companies have been bought in the last 5 to 10 years by private equity. What does private equity want? More money, more margins. Well, how do we get more money out of you? Well, the solution has been offer more courses, more modules, put more stuff in the menu, give them an all access pass, give them a library, a portal that's just oozing with courses. LinkedIn Learning's up to 17,000. So the manager's wondering, where do I begin? And no senior executive's ever going to spend time in a portal. And so that's just the complexity doesn't scale. Less is more. And so Harvard said this when they studied L&D, the business school, Harvard's business school. Our survey suggests that many L&D organizations are falling behind in their ability to exert real impact on what? Business performance. So do we in L&D think of ourselves as support functions? HR, L&D, we're kind of a support function. If you use that language, strike it. Don't use that phrase ever again. You're not a support function. We are strategic partners that enable the business plan. So every course, every competency, every skill we teach is tied to business performance, organization outcomes. When? Not in a year, not eventually, not kind of indirectly, this quarter. The things that we're training leaders on are going to impact this quarter, next quarter's performance. If it's not, then we are a support function. And in an age of AI and efficiency, you should be nervous. But if you're a strategic partner, you shouldn't be, because you're critical to enabling our ability as an organization, whether we're a hospital system, we're higher ed, whether we are in manufacturing or we're in healthcare, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, we help enable business performance. And so the language that we speak in L&D is critical. And so many of the L&D folks that are just so skilled, so experienced, they've got great expertise, but you're speaking a different language than the C-suite. They're talking about margin and quality and on-time delivery and customer satisfaction and patient experience. And you're talking about trust and hard conversations and discovering your why. And the C-suite's going, those sound really good. Like, I'd like it if our leaders did those things, but is it going to affect our business outcome this month? And so we've got to become strategic partners. How do we do that? Well, here's what we're here to talk about in our first session today as part of today's lineup. The problem, in fact, there was a senior executive we were talking to at an organization who introduced us to this concept that I'm going to show you here. She said, you know what, at senior leadership level, VP level, really, we've got some programs in place. We've got executive coaches. We're doing some leadership development, some forums. We're taking some time at offsites. The director level, where we've got some all hands leadership summits as well. Most of those are done virtually. We need a lot of help. She called it the clay layer, like where things get stuck in our organization is at this mid-level manager level. And she said, we just can't seem to get through that soil at the clay layer, mid-level managers. And then, of course, the mid-level managers and frontline supervisors are the closest to the front line. And so here today, we're going to talk about some core competencies or skills that affect each one of these people that you're seeing on the screen, each of their ability to deliver business outcomes. And so competencies and skills are a secondary language to what I'm going to show you and have you think about over the next few minutes. Now, these next few slides, I want you to pay really close attention to because they deal with a specific shift that's happening right now. And it's driven by a couple of things that I'm going to have you weigh in on the chat. So if you don't have the chat open, click on the chat icon, get it up because I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. I want your perspective on it. So the old way of leadership was I'm promoted into management. I'm given a supervisor, a manager, a VP, a director, whatever title. And what matters most to me is, well, who reports into me? And so this is a traditional top-down hierarchy where you're really focused on, well, who reports into me? And then if you're really powerful, like you're really experienced and you really have it together, then maybe there's another layer. And so you've got multiple layers that are reporting into you. And what you spend most of your energy on is how am I leading the people that report up in to me? We call this vertical leadership. And it is, listen to me, this is really interesting to think about. I want you to think about whether you agree with this or not, whether you're seeing it in your organization. This is the old way. Wait, what? This is the old way? Well, then what's the current way? I'm going to show you. A different way of leading when the manager is promoted or the VP or director or executive, whoever, what they care about. And it's not that the vertical approach goes away, but what they care deeply about, what you care about, developing the skill is how they do this. Work horizontally, horizontal leadership. So in the chat, why would this approach matter? Well, why am I showing you these two slides here? What's happening out in the marketplace, in your industry, in your organization that would cause me to make the statement that this way that I'm showing you matters more than ever? What is happening? Give me some examples or just think about it for a moment. Why would this way, a horizontal approach to leadership? Why? Yeah, it's about no silos. It's about collaboration, right? But why do we care? Make the business case. Speak the language of the executives. Why does this matter? Laura, you're getting to one of them. Exactly. AI workflows. So I'm not smart enough to absolutely predict the future, but every podcast, every article, everybody that's visionary that I listen to says that the organization, every organization, a few years from now is going to be a little flatter. Now, don't get nervous. Like, oh my gosh, you're going to eliminate all the jobs and I need to update my resume and get back on LinkedIn because no, be calm. If you bring value, you've got no fear now or ever. If you bring value, if you're in a support function and you can easily be replaced, yeah, you should have a little nervousness. But AI is flattening organizations, meaning that the middle, a lot of the middle is going to be agentic. Well, what does that term mean? It means that AI agents in our organization, in our firm, their updates, we make fun of it because it's bots, but we have now Roger and Tom are two of the bots that regularly pipe into Slack. Whether you use Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever, they're weighing in all the time. They're offering ideas and updates on what's happening in the business. So the organization gets a little flatter and wider. Can you understand how that works? And why do we need that? Some of you are saying it, right? So it's about speed to market. So if you've got lots of layers, some of you can relate to this because you're like, oh my gosh, you're describing our organization. Or maybe it's the last company that I worked at. We got lots of layers. And so in order to get, you're down here at the lower level and you need to get something approved. Well, how many layers do you have to go through, right? In order to get that approval? And so what happens is we're stuck swirling in our organization while the competitors are just the ones that are moving to horizontal leadership. They can move faster. They can come up with solutions. They can address the patient needs. They can address the member needs. They can launch products. They can implement systems. They can do all of these things faster than we can because our leaders are worried about this that's on the screen when they need to be worried about this. And so one of the core questions, and by the way, what's currently needed is both. So you can't be good at this, but suck at vertical leadership. Like your people don't like you, or they're not engaged, but you're really good with the other departments or functions. That doesn't work. Or just this, that doesn't work anymore. So it's both. So take a screenshot of this slide. This is super, super important. In L&D, we've got to be building horizontal leadership. I promise you, if you go into a meeting later today or tomorrow, or you send an email and you say, you know what, executive so-and-so, or CHRO, or whomever it is, you're talking to somebody in the business that's at a decent level of the org chart, and you say, you know, I've been thinking a lot about how we need to build horizontal leadership in the organization. You text me, you email me what their response. They're going to be like, whoa, I need more of what you're talking about. So this is when we say this session is titled Leading at All Levels of the Organization, we got to build this. You've got to be collaborating. Who reports into you matters less than who is collaborating with you. So how do we build these skill sets? What does it look like? We're going to show you a few. So in our opinion, I said earlier, the Cheesecake Factory menu doesn't work. In our opinion, we only develop 4 skills, 4 areas. In all the work we do with organizations for over 20 years, it's 4 things. It's not 400, it's not 4,000, it's 4. Because complexity doesn't scale. And so great leaders take the complex and they make it simple. So do great HR departments. So do great L&D teams. They take the complex and they make it simple. So the first area is we're going to help with performance. The second area, change. Anyone experiencing any change in their organization or their industry? Yeah, a ton. So how do we lead through it? Then accountability. The human nature is when I come up into a boulder on the path to the summit, I feel small. I want to surrender. I wasn't expecting the boulder to be here. Maybe we should turn around and head back, or maybe we should hang out here on the path for a while until the boulder moves. The boulder doesn't move itself, right? So accountability is what we call that word. It's getting over, through, around, rather than surrendering to the boulder. And then the last area is decision making. So many of our organizations struggle with speed of decisions and then creating decisions or making decisions in a way that creates buy-in and ownership. So in my time with you, look, I got less than 30 minutes left. Like time flies, right? I'm only going to focus for a few minutes on the left 2, results and change. The 2 on the right, accountability and decisions. We'll talk more about that at another time, and I'll give you some information if that's striking a chord with you. You go, oh my gosh, that's what we need. The right side of what you're showing right now, Russ. Okay, well, I'll give you a way to find out more about that. But let's dig into these first 2 on the left. I don't care where you are on the org chart. You need help in delivering performance, mobilizing the masses, whether that's 5 people or 5,000 or 50,000, and leading through change. So we're going to start with performance and results. So what the things that you've got to be focused on in order to deliver results are creating clarity, building alignment, generating movement. Take a screenshot of this, a picture of it with your phone. This model, this framework, of course, it's our intellectual property, but these 3 ideas of creating clarity, building alignment, and generating movement, we would suggest to you that before you teach anybody about trust, before you help them have a hard conversation, before you teach them how to be accountable, before you teach them how to discover their why, before you teach them anything, they need help creating clarity, because I get hired, promoted, or fired based on my ability to get a team of people, a group of people to deliver outcomes. And so the very first place I have to start is, well, what are the outcomes that matter? And so again, complexity doesn't scale. So when I go to my team, whether I'm at the executive level or whether I'm at a manager level, I need to create clarity. Well, how do I do that? I'm going to show you. So we were working with a hospital system in Boston. And when we first met Elaine, the CEO, we asked her, this is a phone call. And we said, Elaine, do you have clarity in the hospital around the results that matter most? She said, oh, we got total clarity. Yeah, everybody understands what we need to deliver. Like, okay, well, what is it? And she said, well, we have a balanced scorecard. Let me get it out and read it to you. So, okay, go grab it. She grabs it, gets back on the phone. She starts reading to us what's on the balanced scorecard. We're writing down fast, trying to keep up with it. We get to item number 20. Elaine takes a breath. We said, okay, Elaine, 20 items. Is that it? She goes, no. She said, that's the first bucket. So, oh, okay. How many buckets are there, Elaine? She said, well, there are four. Okay, well, roughly how many items are in the three other buckets? She said, well, about the same. Okay, so 20, 40, 60. Okay, so Elaine, you're asking the hospital to prioritize 80 things. And she said, well, it doesn't sound very good when you say it like that. We said, well, we're not trying to say it any differently than it is. And she said, well, we've got total clarity. The nurses understand this, the different units. These balanced scorecards are posted everywhere. We got red, yellow, green. Everybody knows it. I said, awesome. Well, when we talked to your direct reports, because we had calls scheduled with all of them as we began, this was a consulting project on the consulting side of our business where we work with executive teams of business units or the C-suite. And so we said, Elaine, we're going to talk to each of your direct reports. When we talk to them on the phone, we're going to ask them about clarity. And she said, that'd be awesome. So we get on the phone with the chief nursing officer and we ask her, is there clarity around what results matter most? She said, oh, totally. We have a balanced scorecard. She used the same language. Everybody said balanced scorecard. We said, great. What's on it? She said, let me go get it. No, don't go get it. Just tell us from memory how many things are on the scorecard. In the chat, how many things could she give us? Just from memory. So there are 80 things on the balanced scorecard. From memory, how many could she tell us? All of the science tells us 3 or 4. You remember in groups of 3 or 4. And so some of you can remember a little bit more, but the science is 3 to 4. So I want you to type in the chat. Some of you are in healthcare, some of you aren't. It doesn't matter. Just guess. Chief nursing officer. We're on the phone. We say, what results matter most? What 3 did she give us? What do you think they were around? Give me the categories. What do you think she listed off to us? Yeah, keep people alive, right? Megan, totally. Patient safety, right? Jessica, patient outcomes, survival. Yeah, any of you who aren't in healthcare, you need to know that Medicare, Medicaid reimbursements, which drive a lot of the financial performance of a hospital, are based around what they call HCAP scores, which is a fancy way of saying patient satisfaction, customer satisfaction. So the government surveys you after you go in and have that procedure done and you need it reimbursed by Medicare or Medicaid. They say, what do you think about the experience? Based on what you say about the hospital, that determines partly how they reimburse the hospital, how much they give them. So hospitals care a ton about patient satisfaction. So the chief nursing officer, patient satisfaction, patient safety, and employee engagement. She cared a ton about how much her nurses love their jobs. Now we get on the phone next with the chief financial officer, the CFO. What 3 results, type in the chat, take a guess. What 3 results was he giving us on the phone when we told him, don't get out the balanced scorecard? What 3 did he give us? All the financials, right? Yep, Sarah, waste. Absolutely, labor. Yep. He cares deeply about top line margin, right? So the point is this: vertical leadership happens naturally in organizations when we create silos. Did you hear what I said? We create silos. Well, how do we create silos? Because we measure performance in individual departments, not horizontally. And so you put that slide that I showed you earlier up and say, Russ, it's really important you collaborate, that you're leading horizontally. And I said, well, that sounds great, but I'm held accountable for the results my team has to deliver. So that's what I care most about. So where you begin is you create clarity across the organization. What does that look like? I'm going to play a video of what it looks like in a restaurant chain. This is Tanner, a colleague of mine. And sometimes the audio is a little bit off from the video. Just hang with it. And this is like a 2-minute video, maybe 90 seconds, around what clarity looks like across an entire national restaurant chain.
Several months before the surge of the COVID-19 pandemic, our team sat in a Chili's restaurant preparing for a client meeting the next morning. A young waitress greeted us and took our drink orders. When she returned with our drinks, we asked her if she knew her restaurant's key results, kind of a strange question. She smirked and kind of eyed us with some degree of suspicion, likely wondering if we were corporate spies from the restaurant support center or their headquarters. Then, with hardly any hesitation, she said, yeah, guest, profit, sales, and team. Now, having worked previously with Chili's executive team, we knew she was spot on. We then tried a second question. So how do you measure the guest experience? With even less hesitation than before, she said, well, that's our GEM score, guest experience measure. So now we're really impressed. She went on to explain their restaurant's target was a 65, and so far that week they were tracking just 2 points shy of the goal. She then went on to talk about a concept she called team service, which was a simple strategy involving every employee in the front of the house where guests are seated. Each one of them was responsible for picking up dirty dishes and refilling empty glasses anytime they saw a need. All of it in an effort to deliver on their GEM score of 65. This simple exchange told us everything we needed to know about that restaurant's general manager. It told us that GM had mentally worked through the complexity of restaurant operations to focus the team on clearly defined objectives. Your team will work for money. They will work harder for good leaders, but ultimately they will work hardest for a cause. That's it. Decades of social science research suggests that by connecting someone's day-to-day work with outcomes that matter, naturally increases engagement. It doesn't matter if your team's creating groundbreaking medicines, assembling fighter jets, or delivering baby back ribs. Humans have an innate yearning to contribute to something greater than themselves. A third leader can tap into that when they use simplicity to create clarity around what matters most.
I want you to think for a moment of the value of an L&D team that goes to leaders throughout the organization and helps them create clarity around the business outcomes that matter most. Is that a support function, or is that a strategic partner? Is that a department we give funding to, or do we slice it? Now, so when we begin in L&D by taking the complex and making it simple and creating simplicity across the org chart, helping leaders at all levels of the org chart create clarity, we impact business performance. So how do you do it? We call them TKRs, team key results. You can call them KPIs, you can call them OKRs. We don't care what you call them. Most of the companies we work with have adopted the TKR language because it's sticky. Team key results. What are team key results? Well, they have 2 parts to it, a category and a metric. The category is basically revenue, product launches, employee satisfaction, on-time delivery, margin, whatever it might be. And then the metric is, well, what's the number we're trying to hit? You can't move what you aren't measuring. Right? So there's a metric, there's a specific target. There aren't 20 of them, like on the balanced scorecard, there's one. And so here's what it looks like. This is a division of Johnson and Johnson. They broke off, they call it Kenvue now. The Kenvue is the consumer product division of what used to be their involvement in Johnson and Johnson. We've been working with J&J for over 20 years. So Kenvue, Rodney, one of the executives there, created these team key results, 95, 5, 100. Well, what does that mean? 95 means OTIF-D. Well, what's OTIF-D? On-time in full delivery. You're a manager at a Walgreens. You need more Listerine on the shelf. You put an order in to Kenvue for more Listerine, more children's Tylenol, more Neutrogena, all the products that Kenvue makes. 95% of the time, Rodney wanted that Walgreens manager to get his or her order on time in full. Everything that they ordered on the shelf on time in full. OTIF-D. At the time he introduced this goal, this key result, this team key result, they were at 44%. The team thought he had lost his mind. We were in the room in Princeton, New Jersey. in a hotel ballroom there when he introduced 95, 5, 100. Top five vendor ranking. We want Amazon to think we're one of their best five vendors. We want Walmart to think we're one of their best five vendors. And we're going to meet 100% of our financial plan. If you were to get on the phone, do a Teams meeting, a Zoom meeting with anybody in Kenview that reports up that vertical org chart to Rodney, and you said, what are the most important key results? Do you have clarity? They wouldn't say we have a balanced scorecard. They wouldn't say, yeah, I think we talked about that in a meeting in January. Let me look up my email. They wouldn't say, let me find the deck. They would, without hesitation, say, yeah, we've got clarity, 95, 5, 100. Well, what's 95, 5, 100? It's what we're working to achieve. It's the most important outcomes. Now, is Kenview measuring a million things? Do they have a balanced scorecard? Of course. But they've elevated three key results that matter most. Think if L&D went throughout an organization and helped leaders at all levels of the org chart, including at the C-suite, but definitely with high potentials, definitely with new managers, help them develop clarity. If you had managers and leaders and VPs and directors throughout your organization going 95, 5, 100, whatever it is for their team. We're doing this with a financial institution, one of the biggest banks in the world. They've got us over, and we're doing it in person. They happen to want to do it in person. So over 15 weeks, New York, Charlotte, San Francisco, London, India, we're going through and they're helping each one of the managers, the 1,000 at this level of the org chart, create team key results. That's clarity. It deserves a half hour. I don't have that much time. So a lot more we could say around clarity, but that's critically important. Alignment is the second area. And then I'm going to move to leading through change in a moment. This is just the foundation of leadership. Again, all of these apps of trust, hard conversations, discovering your why, all those things, they're critically important. They're great apps, so to speak, to install on a leader, but they need an operating system. The LeaderOS, that's what we call this, leader operating system. Alignment. Okay, now I got my team key results. Or maybe I have a new policy that I need to implement, or a priority, or a strategic change in direction. I need to be able to create alignment. So in the chat, type this in. Just indulge me for a moment. If I'm a manager and I want to create awareness, we're just talking about awareness for a second. I want to create awareness of the TKRs that I just developed, 95, 5, 100. How do I create awareness? What does a manager do? Get super basic. What would a manager do? Type it in the chat. A manager wants to create awareness in his or her department or across different functional areas. Yeah, they call a team meeting, right? They send an email. They talk about it. When a manager is speaking, an executive is speaking, a VP is speaking, they're creating awareness. They don't need your help doing that. They know how to create awareness. It's become way too easy to call meetings, to send an email, right? But alignment is different. How would that manager create alignment? Give me in the chat some ideas, because awareness is different than alignment. My team's aware of the key results. They just aren't working towards them. My team's aware of the new policy. They're just not following it. So what do you do to create alignment? Think about it and then type it into the chat. I want to hear from a bunch of you. We've got hundreds on. I want to hear from you. Okay. Yeah, Steve, you start with the why. Absolutely. You create buy-in, Lisa. Totally. Hector, yeah, you get the team talking. Here's the big takeaway. We teach an alignment process. There are 3 steps to it. Most leaders in your organization have never, think about this for a moment. Most leaders in most organizations at all levels of the org chart have never been taught how to create alignment. They know they don't have it between departments or within a department. They know they need it, but they aren't sure how to create it. So you just think if we spend a little bit of time training leaders, we move from a support function to a strategic partner, because guess what we're doing? We're creating alignment in the organization. And so alignment is messy and it happens out loud. It's when the leader stops talking and the team starts talking. Now you're getting alignment. So the question that a leader asks from the front of the room, virtually or in person, isn't, "Hey, you all, team, do you have any questions about what I'm showing on the screen right now?" You don't ask that. Do you have any questions? Because it implies that maybe most people don't. The better question is, what questions do you have? And then you sit and you wait until the team starts raising obstacles and contradictions and challenges and all the things that their mind goes to. And you validate, not minimize what they bring up. Doesn't mean you're agreeing with them. It just means that you're validating it. It's what they're seeing. And so alignment, you create the why. We call it make the case. Then you gauge and discuss. The team speaks. That's the second step of the alignment process. The third is involvement. Alignment isn't about agreement. You can't get your family to agree on what Netflix show to watch, much less a department of diverse people with all kinds of different backgrounds and opinions. You don't want agreement. You want alignment. And alignment's about involvement. We spend 2 weeks in a 30-day cohort that we teach around clarity, alignment, movement, LeaderOS on alignment. I only have about 5 minutes to share it with you. So this model right here, we teach in a course. We offer it off the shelf in a 30-day cohort that thousands of leaders can log into and take. You can get certified in the content on it, or you can have our faculty deliver it, or some organizations, we're with the company in a couple of weeks on site, 825 leaders that will be on site, and we're spending the full day teaching them LeaderOS, clarity, alignment, movement throughout the organization. The senior executives, I talked to 2 of them last week on Teams calls, and L&D booked it with us and set it up. These senior executives are like, oh my gosh, this is going to have a significant impact on Q2, Q3 of our organization, teaching these skills. The L&D team is being viewed as a strategic partner. LeaderOS. Okay, now, last area, movement. Movement's all around. It's not, the word isn't motion, it's movement. How do you create movement? You move from low leverage activities. This is all the noise in the system. And you move it to high leverage activities. We call them HLAs. You focus the team on identifying HLAs. Gosh, I wish I had a lot of time to go through this, but you got a lot of sessions today, you all, and I've only got about another 10 minutes with you. So I'm going to fly through. Okay, I've just covered the top left. Now I'm going to cover the bottom left. Change. We're going to do this super fast. So just buckle up because I'm going to need to move through this pretty quickly. So we create clarity. That's where we start. Now we need to realize, okay, how do I help leaders throughout my organization at all levels of the org chart manage through change? And so we use, again, you'll notice the greatest compliment you could pay to us about any of our content is that it's simple because complexity doesn't scale. And so there are all kinds of change management models out there. They're too complex. People don't use them. And so ours is very simple. Status quo. Your brain is wired to want the status quo, and yet you're constantly dealing with disruptions. And so if you think about disruptions, the reason they cause frustration or disappointment in our lives is because we have expectations that things will be the same. And every frustration or disappointment you experience in life, or your kids or your spouse or your partner, your neighbor, your team member, every disappointment is tied to an unmet expectation. And so I'm going to play a video for you here in a moment about disruption. It's from me, which is a little cheesy, but our team told me, Russ, you got to play that video. So here it is.
It's a moment every family experiences. The kids start to leave home. For us, that moment was packed with emotion, as our oldest son decided after high school to leave us for 2 years to serve a volunteer mission on the other side of the world. Saying goodbye to a child, knowing you won't be able to hug them, to see them, to celebrate the holidays with them for multiple years, that was an emotional moment for our family. Tyler, our oldest, went to Australia working with Chinese immigrants. He worked hard to learn Mandarin Chinese. He prepared for this opportunity. But then suddenly everything changed. The global pandemic shut everything down. Instead of making a difference in the lives of others, he was locked down on the other side of the world. His plans were massively disrupted. I wondered, how can I help him? What can I say to Tyler on our weekly calls to help him as his dad? That's when I started sharing with him the words you'll become familiar with in this course. Words like disruption, mourn, adapt. In all of our personal and professional lives, we know change is constant. Disruption's guaranteed. What's optional is growth, wisdom. The changes happening right now in your industry or company are just one wave in an ocean full of energy. The water will never be fully still. Your ability to not only stay afloat, but to thrive in an ocean full of change is what these next 4 weeks are all about. That setback that my son endured was a masterclass in resiliency. As a dad, I have some sense of the types of detours, setbacks, and surprises life will bring him in the decades ahead. His ability, your ability, to adapt is something worth investing time and energy into strengthening.
So that video plays at the beginning. It's in the deck at the beginning of our change course. And so you hear me talk about the next 4 weeks because it's in the virtual course. Let me give you a high level real quick. And we don't have time to go deep, but I want to just plant a few things in your mind. So whatever changes or disruptions your organization is dealing with, it could be a restructuring, it could be a merger acquisition, it could be changes in the marketplace, it could be geopolitical, it could be all kinds of different things. It could be AI driven, right? The very first thing that the human brain does when you disrupt status quo, you change something, is we mourn. And so what scientists tell us is you see increased activity in two parts of the brain, the parts of the brain, or one part of the brain, the part of the brain that handles pain and fear. So when anything's disrupted, the part of my brain that handles pain and fear gets elevated, it gets energized, or it comes to life, right? And the areas where you see less activity are problem solving and creativity. Think about that for a moment. So we want you just to adapt to the change, but I'm feeling this pain or fear, and a lot of times it's not conscious, it's subconscious. And so you can't grow, you can't adapt without going through this grief. And we're not talking about like the fact that you need a bonfire and hold hands or anything. We're just saying you need to acknowledge that people need to mourn change. And so part of the process we teach leaders at all level of the org chart is we use this acronym called CARE. How do you help a team? How do you help individuals get through this mourning phase of the loss of status quo? Well, you do 4 things. Again, these deserve a lot of time. I don't have it today. I'm just giving you a high-level overview. The first thing is you communicate openly. Visibility, accessibility, and transparency matter a ton. If you were to look at our participant guide on this course, you would see us teaching that. Visibility. How visible are you as a leader? How accessible are you? How transparent are you? That matters when your team is dealing with disruption. The second thing is you acknowledge emotion. You validate the feelings that they're experiencing. That means that I'm leading a discussion on my team. Hey, team, I know how you're feeling about this, or share with it, or it's in one-on-one conversations. I reframe the disruption. That's a skill that a leader develops in order to help their team get through mourning of the loss of status quo. So I'm focusing them more on the gain opportunity than the loss. It's not that I'm minimizing the loss we're feeling with the new policy, the new structure, the changes, but I'm helping them reframe the disruption, and then I help them evolve expectations. Maybe we could function and succeed in this new way. And so that's mourn. Again, deserves a ton of time. We spend a week on it in a 4-week course or cohort. I'm giving it 2 minutes. And then adapt. Adapting is when you start to see curiosity in people and they start focusing on the future, where we're headed instead of where we've been. Mourning, any kind of change or disruption that's happening in or outside our organization is totally natural. Mourning changes happening in your personal life is natural. Give yourself grace to do that. Adapting is optional. And so the job of a leader is not only to help their team deal with disruption and manage and get through what's happening to us, but actually the last part of this model that I don't have time to get into today is you actually start driving change. You're leading changes in your organization. So 4 areas. Woo! I've been going at a fast speed. I hope that you're finding value in it, just giving you things to think about. Like how much time and energy are we spending developing these core competencies? Could we take the complex solutions we have and maybe simplify them? I haven't gotten to the 2 on the right side. And so as I wrap up my time with you, an invitation. You can scan this QR code or you can go to that URL. Screenshot this real quickly so you've got it, or just type that in. So we call these the core 4 skills. Instead of that Cheesecake Factory menu, just narrow it down to 4 core competencies. And as some of you look at this list, you go, actually, Russ, I really like what you've been talking about, but what we need help with is accountability. Like that's what we have the greatest need on. Okay, great. Or no, we need help with decision making. What does that look like? Well, we give an overview of what we call these core 4. So basically what I did for 45 minutes, but it's 2 hours. It's virtual and it's free. You don't want to charge anything. You've seen how much I've sold to you in this meeting. Not at all, right? I'm just showing you ideas and different things. So our team, you can sign up for one of these 2-hour virtual sessions where we walk through these 4 different core competencies. And so whether it's just you or some other members of the L&D or HR team that are going, oh my gosh, we need to move to be a strategic partner. Like this is resonating with me. I need to go deeper in this and figure out more about it, see if it fits with some of the things we need in this organization. Scan that QR code or go to that URL. We would love for you to register for one of the master classes that's coming up in the next few weeks. They're free. It's not salesy. We'd love to dig deeper in it, into these 4 areas. You get more than what I've done in our time together. But as I wrap up and turn it back over to Liz, my last takeaway, you all, is that horizontal leadership. You could actually be driving that in your organization. We in L&D could move from a support function and speak the language of the C-suite. We could actually affect business outcomes. I promise you, when you do that, the amount of resources and funding and ROI that comes your way because you're driving it is huge. So, Liz, thanks for the opportunity to go first today. Thanks for letting us kick off today's session. I'm excited for what's coming in ahead. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Russ. I love having you first because I don't know about y'all, but I feel so motivated, so inspired. So great way to kick off today's event, especially on leadership. So thank you so much, Russ. Always a
You bet.
video. So for everyone else, we will be taking about a 15-minute break. Up next, we do have James Cross for their session sponsored by Tinner, The Missing Piece in Leadership Development, AI-Powered Practice. So in just a moment, I will be ending this session. You can join our next session by returning to that event lobby and then going to the session tab. And I hope you all stick around for our next session, which will begin at the top of the hour. See you guys soon. Bye, everybody.